In this segment of the tutorial, we're going to be looking at three filters within Photoshop. We're going to be looking at the Sharpen More, and Sharpen Edges. So let's go ahead and get started in there. And we're going to go here to our bridge where we see that we have a Photoshop image, and I'm just going to open this image up. And the way that we're going to do that is just double click on it, and I can go in now and I can hide my bridge just so that it doesn't get too cluttery in here. By the way, you can automatically hide the bridge when you open a document by holding the Option key down when you double click the Photoshop document, and the bridge will automatically close. Okay, these filters are found in the Filter menu under Sharpen, and you can see here we have 5 filters we can work with in Photoshop CS2, but the ones we're interested in now are Sharpen, Sharpen Edges, and Sharpen More. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this image up to 100% by double clicking on the magnifying glass tool. That way we get actually to go in and look at the exact pixels, so that we can see what our sharpening effect is. Now, by the way, one of the things that you will notice there is if you go down to something that's a little less than 100%, let's say 66.7%, you can see that the edges have a little bit of jagginess in them. This is just for the way that Photoshop represents the file, represents the pixels on your screen. And if you go back up to the 100%, you can see that that jagginess goes away. All right. So let's talk about these filters for a minute. These are the easy ones. These have been in here since, ages ago. Many iterations of Photoshop. And they really aren't filters that you want to use. Do they do the sharpening for you? Yeah, they do some sharpening for you. Do you have any control over it? No, you really don't. So let's go in and let's just see what these things do. Now, one of the things that you find out about Sharpen, now I've just clicked the Sharpen filter, and if I go back, you can see that the sharpening has done a little bit of sharpening. But one of the things that you're going to notice here is that this is very destructive because it has changed our base layer. We don't want to do that. We like to stress non-destructive editing so that we don't change our base layer. Let's go back to our beginning where we have open, and now what we're going to do is just copy the layer. So we do our sharpening on another layer, and I'm just going to hit a Command or Control J to duplicate that layer, and I'm just going to call that Sharpen. Now I'm going to go back into the filter menu. I'm going to pick Sharpen and just plain old vanilla Sharpen. And now by turning this layer off and on, you can see that it's done a little bit of sharpening. Is it enough? In some cases it is. I mean, in some areas of our image it is, but in other images it really isn't. We want to have a little bit of sharpening that's more than that. We want to have more sharpening. Now, can we resharpen this layer? Yes, we can do that. Let's hit our Command or Control J again. We have our sharpened copy, and let's just run the Sharpen filter again. And you can see it makes it even sharper. You can see that I'm getting some banding around the edges here where, remember, sharpening actually increases the contrast of the edges so that you can see that I am getting some white lines around some of this, and some of it I'm not. Now, can we actually go in and modify that and tone it down a little bit? Yes, we can. We can do that by changing the opacity of the layer here. And as I bring that back, you can see that the opacity is changing and that the sharpness is actually changing. Okay. That's that one. Now this is the, and again, let's go back and say this is the doubly sharpened. This is our original sharpening, and now we have no sharpening. All right. So now let's look at one of the other filters. Let's duplicate our background again, and I'm going to call that Sharpen More. Okay. Now we're going to go up and we're going to use the Sharpen More filter, on that. And you can see that, yeah, that sharpens it more. Again, we don't really have the control over it other than just going back and reducing some of the opacity. And you can see that as I do that, the white lines around the edge of this diminish a little bit, and the sharpening diminishes a little bit. So I do have a little bit of control that way, but really not the kind of control that I'm looking for. Now, the other one we're going to do is we're going to look at sharpen edges. So we duplicate our layer again, and I'm going to call this Sharpen Edges. And this is something that you should play with, even though I don't recommend using any of these sharpening features to make your image sharper. But take a look at it and get familiar with it so that you know what it does. And there may actually be an instance where you want to use this. So let's go back into Sharpen, and this time we're going to go to Sharpen Edges. And you can see that that enhances the edges a little bit. It doesn't do a lot for the interior of the image. Frankly, I notice it mostly around the edges of the petals. So again, let's take a look. This is Sharpen Edges. This is Sharpen More. This is just the regular Sharpen, and this is a double Sharpen, where you can go back in and change the opacity. Okay, in the next few tutorials, we're going to actually delve into sharpening. We're going to look at some methods that really enable us to grab this and to make the sharpness exactly what we want to do.